Olá, pessoal, tudo bem? Sejam bem-vindos e bem-vindas ao canal Inglês de Verdade. Hoje, você ouvirá um pequeno podcast para testar seu listening em inglês. Após ouvi-lo, você responderá 5 perguntas sobre o assunto falado para testar a sua compreensão. Fazendo isso, além de praticar seu listening, você ainda vai ganhar vocabulário em inglês. Caso queira, você pode ativar a legenda em inglês que está disponível no vídeo. Então, vamos começar!
Okay, so when you think about the United States, what's the first image that pops into your head? Maybe it's, those huge skyscrapers in New York, or Hollywood, all glitz and glamour, or maybe even just fast food drive-thrus, right? They seem to be everywhere. Most of us definitely have some picture. But, well, what if that picture is only a tiny part of the story? What if this huge country is actually way weirder and more surprising than we usually think? That's what we're digging into today on the deep dive. We want to uncover some genuinely surprising facts about the U.S., stuff that's maybe hiding just below the surface. And these aren't just trivia points. They really give you insights into American culture, the English language spoken there, maybe even how people think.
Exactly, and that's the key, right? These details, they aren't just random factoids. They actually paint a picture of the U.S.'s unique character. It makes it, well, a really fascinating place to explore, much more complex than the stereotypes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're setting off on a bit of a discovery journey.
Okay, let's jump right in. A classic American symbol, the Statue of Liberty. Everyone knows it. You see it in New York Harbor, holding the torch high. But do you know how it actually arrived?
Yeah, the origin story is pretty amazing. We know it was a gift from France, right?
Yeah.
1885, symbol of friendship. But here's the kicker. It didn't arrive, fully formed.
Not at all.
No, it came in 350 separate pieces.
Yeah.
Packed into over 200 massive boxes.
Wow, 350 pieces, like a giant IKEA project from France.
Kind of, yeah. Imagine getting that delivery. And the really wild part, when all those boxes landed in New York, the pedestal wasn't even finished yet.
You're kidding. So just sat there in pieces.
Yep, sat there in crates while they figured out how to finish the base.
Yeah.
It actually sparked this huge public fundraising campaign across America. It really shows something about the American way, doesn't it? Sometimes these grand ideas start off a bit messy.
That really does paint a picture, a nation of builders, maybe starting with assembly required. Okay, so that idea of getting something huge, but maybe in an unexpected way, it makes me think of Alaska.
Ugh. Alaska. Good connection. Most people just assume it's always been American territory.
Right, but it wasn't?
Nope. It was actually Russian until 1867.
Russian. Wow, so how did the U.S. get it?
They bought it for just $7.2 million.
Okay, $7.2 million sounds like a lot, but for a whole state.
Exactly. When you break it down, it works out to about 2 cents an acre. An incredible deal.
2 cents an acre, that's nothing.
It really was. And back then, a lot of Americans thought it was a terrible idea. They called it Seward's Folly, named after the guy who made the deal. People thought it was just this useless frozen wasteland.
But clearly, they were wrong.
Massively wrong. Think about it now. Alaska's strategic location, its natural resources, especially oil, it's hugely important. It's maybe one of the best examples of a purchase that seemed, well, foolish at the time, but turned out incredibly wise. Foresight. Or maybe just good luck.
It's just amazing. The Statue of Liberty arriving in bits and pieces, Alaska bought for pennies. It really changes how you see the country being put together, literally. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From land to language. If I asked you, right now, what's the official language of the United States? What would you say?
Most people would immediately say English. It seems obvious.
It does seem obvious, but here's a real surprise. The U.S. actually has no official language at the federal level.
That catches so many people out.
Yeah. The Constitution was written very carefully to avoid singling out one language. The idea was to not exclude language minorities.
Exactly. It was a foundational thing, really, ensuring different cultures felt included.
So while English is definitely dominant, it's not, legally the language.
And that lack of an official federal language has allowed for this incredible linguistic diversity to flourish. And nowhere is that more obvious than New York City.
Okay, I know New York is diverse, but how diverse are we talking language-wise?
We're talking the most linguistically diverse city on the planet.
Seriously?
The most. Yep, get this. There are over 800 languages spoken in New York City.
800? That's staggering.
It really is. You can walk down a street in Queens, for example, and hear English, Spanish, Cantonese, Bengali, Russian, Haitian Creole, maybe even languages you've never heard of.
Wow.
It really shapes the city's identity. That melting pot idea is literally audible there. It forces a certain adaptability.
That's a great way to put it. Language shaping experience. And that makes me think about how specific places develop their own unique identities, sometimes around, well, surprising things. Like Wisconsin, people call it the cheese state.
Right. Absolutely. And they lean into it hard.
True.
Well, think about their football team, the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Huge fan base. Very passionate.
Okay.
Their fans are famously called cheeseheads.
Cheeseheads.
Yes. And they don't just call themselves that. They actually wear these big, bright yellow foam hats shaped like wedges of Swiss cheese to the games.
No way. They wear cheese on their heads.
They absolutely do. It's this fun, kind of quirky, but really proud symbol of their state identity. It's amazing how a local product becomes this cultural icon.
That is fantastic. A very American kind of local pride. Okay, so from cheese hats to landscapes, deserts.
Right. When you picture a desert, you think sand, right? Golden, maybe reddish sand.
Yeah, pretty much Lawrence of Arabia kind of thing.
Okay, well, forget that for a second. Picture this. White Sands National Park in New Mexico. It's a desert, but the dunes, they're bright white like snow.
White sand, how?
It's not actually sand in the usual sense. It's gypsum, the stuff you find in plaster.
Gypsum dunes?
Yep, vast fields of pure white gypsum dunes.
Yeah.
It looks totally surreal, honestly, like you've landed on another planet or walked into a sci-fi movie. It completely messes with your idea of what a desert should look like. Nature is just incredible.
That sounds unbelievable. A white desert. Okay, defying expectations? That connects perfectly to Hollywood.
Hollywood, the movie capital.
Exactly. We think movies, stars, red carpets. But its origin story is, well, pretty ironic.
It really is. Back in the early 20th century, Hollywood was just a small town and kind of conservative.
Okay.
And they had local laws specifically banning movie theaters.
Wait, banning movie theaters in Hollywood?
Yep. The residents didn't really want the movie business there. They weren't keen on, actors and producers moving in and changing their quiet town.
That's hilarious. The place that became the center of the movie world started out trying to keep movies away.
Isn't that incredible? The irony is just perfect. It somehow transformed from resisting the entertainment industry to becoming its global epicenter. It's a great example of how things can change in unexpected ways, maybe even because of that initial resistance, that sort of persistent spirit.
Okay, from unexpected town histories to unexpected wildlife encounters. Let's talk about Florida. Alligators.
Ah, yes. Florida and its gators.
People know they're there, but the sheer number is kind of mind-blowing. Do you know how many?
I have a feeling it's a lot.
It's about 1.3 million alligators in the state.
1.3 million. Wow.
Yeah, and it's not like they just stay in the swamps. Especially in smaller towns, like down in the Everglades area, you'll see road signs. Not deer crossing, but alligator crossing.
Seriously, like watch out for gators on your commute.
Pretty much. It's this unique kind of American urban jungle where, potentially dangerous wildlife is just part of the daily backdrop.
That's definitely a different way to think about sharing space with nature. Okay, so sticking with the theme of surprising environments, what about roads?
Roads?
Yeah, specifically really, really straight roads. There's a stretch of U.S. Route 46 in North and South Dakota, and part of it goes for almost 60 kilometers. That's about 37 miles in a dead straight line. No curves, no bends, nothing.
37 miles. Perfectly straight. What's that like to drive?
Well, drivers say it's incredibly hypnotic, just this endless straight line stretching out in front of you.
Hypnotic.
Yeah.
Sounds relaxing.
Maybe too relaxing. That's the interesting part. It could actually be dangerous because the lack of any change in scenery or direction can make drivers really drowsy.
Okay, so the straightness itself becomes a hazard.
Exactly. It's this weird intersection of engineering and human psychology.
Fascinating. A road so straight it puts you to sleep. Okay, one last one. Speaking of unique American things, drive-thrus.
Can't get more American than a drive-thru.
All right, fast food, coffee, banks. But what about churches?
Drive-thru churches? Are you serious?
Totally serious. It's a real thing, mostly in places like Texas and Florida, apparently. You can literally drive up, stay in your car, and receive a prayer or a blessing, sometimes even communion.
Wow, that's taking convenience to a whole new level.
Isn't it? It's like peak American adaptation applying the fast food model to, well, spirituality, making it accessible in a very specific way.
It definitely reflects a certain aspect of the culture, adapting traditions to modern life.
So what a trip, right? We started with the Statue of Liberty in pieces.
And ended with drive-through blessings.
Exactly. We've gone from Alaska bought for pennies to a country with no official language but a city with 800.
Cheeseheads, white deserts, Hollywood's weird beginnings.
Alligators on the road, hypnotic highways. It really does show that the U.S. is so much more complex and, frankly, stranger than those simple images we started with.
It absolutely is. And that's why digging into these details is so valuable.
Yeah.
Especially, if you're learning English or just want to get a better handle on American culture.
Yeah.
These aren't just weird facts. They give you real clues about how people think, act, communicate.
Right.
Knowing this stuff adds color and context. It expands your vocabulary in a really practical way, connecting words to, actual cultural phenomena.
It makes the language feel more alive.
Exactly. This deep dive just shows how the unexpected is kind of baked into American life. It influences everything. It's a place that's always shifting and adapting.
Yeah, definitely. Once you start looking past the obvious, you realize there's just so much more going on. It's built on these big dreams, but also these really specific, sometimes odd, local realities. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden surprises or, quirky details are out there just waiting to be noticed, maybe in any country or culture. Definitely something to keep your eyes open for. You never know what you might find just beneath the surface.
E aí, como você se saiu nas perguntas? Se não acertou todas, não se preocupe. O importante é praticar e continuar evoluindo no seu inglês. Se quiser, volte o vídeo, ouça o podcast novamente e tente responder de novo. Assim você vai reforçar ainda mais seu vocabulário e sua compreensão auditiva. Não esquece de deixar o seu like, se inscrever no canal Inglês de Verdade e ativar o sininho para não perder os próximos vídeos. A gente se vê no próximo episódio com mais práticas e desafios para te ajudar a dominar o inglês de verdade. Até lá e keep practicing!
E se você assistiu até aqui e quer aprender inglês sem gastar um centavo durante todo o processo de aprendizagem, com acesso a ferramentas, atalhos e mentoria que vai fazer com que você absorva o inglês de forma rápida e natural, eu te convido a conhecer o método dos 9 Passos para a Fluência, onde você vai conhecer a forma correta de aprender um inglês.
Good. Now we can go in the water.
Com acesso a ferramentas que irão te auxiliar nesse aprendizado. E o melhor, todas encontradas de forma gratuita. E entre essas ferramentas, uma você usará para manter contato com nativos do inglês para que sua prática de conversação seja mais eficaz. Porque nada melhor do que absorver o inglês diretamente da fonte. E quando eu digo que essas ferramentas são gratuitas, eu não quero dizer que apenas o primeiro mês será grátis, como degustação. E que se você quiser continuar usando, você terá que pagar. Todas as ferramentas que serão apresentadas a você nesse método são gratuitas para o resto da vida, até quando você quiser usar. Esse método é perfeito para você que não tem ideia de como e por onde começar e para você que já tem um conhecimento em inglês, mas ainda não conquistou a fluência. Nele você será apresentado a atalhos que vão acelerar seu aprendizado que estudantes que estão começando não fazem ideia que existem. 99% das pessoas que colocarem esse método em prática, seguindo passo a passo, conseguirão realizar seu sonho de se tornar fluente em inglês. Então, se você acha que finalmente chegou a hora de realizar seu sonho e dominar de vez o inglês, clique no primeiro link da descrição, que eu tenho certeza que você não vai se arrepender.